Hello again, and welcome to the She Is Unleashed podcast, where we gather as faith driven women in leadership ready to break free from what's holding us back and fully embrace our God given power and destiny. Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Miriam Knight, and I am your host. I am so excited to continue on this journey with you. If you don't know, this whole podcast, this season two, is based on the new coming book. She is Unleashed, the book, and I am so excited. I'm just going to post it here. Is She is Unleashed, the faith-driven, high-performing women leaders guide to unleashing your God-given power. This is coming out on August 30th, and I want to encourage you to get your copy, share it with somebody, and let me know what God is doing in your life through this book. But let's go ahead and dig into today's content. Today, we're going to talk about something that is very deeply personal, and transformative. For me personally, this is a journey about peeling back the layers that have kept us from seeing and living out our true selves. Now, I want to start by saying this. In our last episode, we talked about what does it mean to be unleashed and what it means to break free from all the things that are holding us back. In today's episode, we're going to talk about this journey, this journey of unveiling. And we ended last episode saying it's not a destination, it's a journey, it's a constant unveiling of different layers. I want to start by saying this, that the journey of unveiling, again, is not a straight path. It's full of twists and turns. It's not an A to B thing. There's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of different messy moments in this journey. It's raw, it's very real, but it is also a very beautiful and necessary journey for each and every one of us. We cannot begin to walk in the fullness of what God has called us to walk in this season of our lives if we will not embrace the journey of unleashing. For many of us, we can feel like, oh my gosh, this is going to cost me so much. I don't want to do this. I don't want to take the risk. And yes, even though it feels hard sometimes, I want to encourage you to just press in and press through. Don't give up on your journey. I often say this to my therapy clients when we do the initial consultation. I need you to commit to the process, commit to the journey, because it's going to get bad before it gets better. It's going to get a little bit ugly and messy because for a lot of us, we have to open up the wounds that have been closed up for a long time, things that we haven't spoken about, things that we haven't dealt with and addressed. We're going to have to open that up. And sometimes that's scary and uncomfortable, and we don't want to do that. And so we avoid it with everything in us. But here's the thing, if you won't heal it, if you won't deal with it, if you won't address it, it's going to come out in different ways, and it might kill you if you don't give yourself the opportunity to deal with the areas in your life that are unhealthy, that are not allowing you to move forward. So as we delve into this, I want to encourage you, even though the journey is hard sometimes, because I've been there myself and I still am in many different aspects of my life. Remember, I said it's layers. So I might have dealt with one thing over here and there's something over here that I still need to work through. Even though it's hard, I want to encourage you that it is so worth dealing with this and allowing yourself to fully embrace who God is calling you to be in this season. You might find yourselves right now in that crossroad where you're trying to decide, do I want to let go of who I am and who I've been for the last several years? And do I want to reach forward to that thing, that person that God has called me to be in this next season of my life? It may be scary. Yes. For many people, it's scary to leave the familiar places and go into the uncharted territories, the places of the unknown. But I want to encourage you that it is so worth it. All right, so let's talk about these layers that we often wear. For many of us high performing women, it may be layers of masks that we have put on, that we've shown up in different areas of our lives to accommodate the different expectations that people have placed on us, that people have of us in these different places. And so these different layers over time, they might be placed on us by people's expectations, sometimes our own expectations of ourselves. They might be labels that we've accepted, roles that we've played, or expectations we've tried to meet. You may, for many of us, especially if you're high performing, faith-driven woman, you may be playing the role of the strong one in your family, the dependable leader at work, the perfect wife or mother. And while these roles might be a part of who you are or who you're trying to be and aspiring to be, they don't define your whole identity. And for many of us, there are false masks and false images that we have created of ourselves because we're afraid that if people really got to know who we truly are, that they would be disappointed and we would face rejection and abandonment. And so we keep on these masks. But after a while, putting on all these different masks and all these different roles and labels and titles gets exhausting. And we get to a place where we don't even know if we can function anymore. And literally, it's like a computer system program starting to glitch. We start glitching in our interactions with people and our interactions with ourselves. Our body starts saying, I can't do this anymore. Now, I remember a time in my life where I was completely wrapped up in these layers, performance driven, achievement driven, where it was just one thing after the other. You couldn't sit me still for a second because I was constantly trying to prove myself, constantly trying to make sure that everybody in my life was happy, going from one thing to the next, one person to the next. It was just so much going on. And here's the thing, it took me a time. Ooh, it took me such a long time for me to realize that these layers were actually hiding my true self, the woman that God created me to be, and that it was okay to be that woman. You know, we can get so caught up in trying to please everybody and that we please nobody at all, least of all ourselves. We can try to make everybody in our lives happy and be the most miserable person in the world. Or maybe that's just my story and my journey, but over the last several years of working with several women in their personal journeys, literally putting on that mask and the labels and the titles and the layers of expectation that are placed on us can wear us down to the point that we literally feel like we're suffocating and we're drowning and we can't move. We are stuck and we feel bound and unable to progress or see progression in our lives, in our relationships, in our businesses, in our ministry, in the things, in the call and the assignment that God has placed upon our lives. I want to ask you to take a moment to just think about the layers you might be wearing. What roles, what labels have you taken on that don't reflect your true self? Just acknowledging them is the first step towards peeling them away. For many of us, because we've been in this role for so long, you might be saying, Miriam, I don't know what you're talking about. Um, I'm doing just fine. And you might even say, I've been doing this for so long, I can't tell the difference between what is true and what is not true. What's the fake part and what's the real part? And so I want to encourage you to press into this journey, listen to the next couple of episodes because we're going to unpeel this. We're going to unfold this over the next couple of weeks. I want to encourage you to lean into the courage to unveil. I read this today. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but it is the willingness to do whatever it takes, to do it anyway, to trust God, to walk with God. My father in law says, trust his heart and take his hand and trust his heart. And for many of us, that might be the call that God is calling us to, as we go into this place of unleashing, this place of unveiling, this place of embarking on this journey with the Lord. It is a call to courage because it is scary to peel back those layers because you don't know what you're going to find underneath. And you don't know what, for many of us, we've been so afraid to fall apart and break down and allow ourselves to be vulnerable and open up those spaces in our lives because we're afraid that if we break down, if we allow ourselves to go there, who's going to pick us up? We've been the one to pick everybody up, but we don't know who we can lean to help pick us up. And I want to encourage you that God is there for you, but not just that I'm here for you. I want to be there for you. I want to support you in your journey. So if there's anything that I can do for you to support you in your journey of unveiling and unleashing, I encourage you to go ahead and drop me a line at connect at dash destiny dash connections. I'll put that in the chat in a little while, but I want to encourage you to just send me a message. Let me know how I can support you in your journey. All right, so let's keep going. So, unveiling yourself requires courage, the courage to face the parts of yourself that you might have ignored and to confront the lies you've believed and step into the unknown. It's not easy, but it is definitely worth it, like CC Winan says. I'll be honest with you, there were times when I didn't want to look at what was beneath the layers. I was scared to find that there's unhealthy habits, unhealthy belief systems, toxic belief systems, and toxic relationships, things that were just not good in my life. I was scared of what I might find if I peeled back the layers. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe I didn't have what it takes. Maybe I would find things, brokenness and pain and hurt and wounds that I wasn't ready to confront. But here's the thing, God already knows what's under there, and He loves you completely without reservation. He's not afraid of your mess. He's right there with you, ready to help you sort through it all. In Jeremiah 1, verse 5, He says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." Think about that. God knew you before you were even born. This is one of my favorite scriptures. He knows every detail of who you are and who you were meant to be. So we can trust Him as we take each step on this unveiling journey. It is God's desire that you be free and that you walk in wholeness. I want to share another personal story with you, a moment in my life where I had to allow God to unveil the aspects of my life. I remember a couple of years ago when this whole ministry of She's Unleashed was birthed, where God was challenging me to have these conversations that are raw, that are personal, that have not been talked about in the church for a very long time. And I knew that for me to create this space for other women, that I would have to deal with some of my own traumas and my own pain. And that might mean letting go of the false identity that I had created and I had allowed others to create of who I was, and allow them to think of me as this perfect person with no flaws, with no mistakes, with no trauma, with no pain. I had to literally shred that and toss that away and allow people in to see the real me, the brokenness, the hurt, the pain, the things that had happened in my life, in relationships, traumas that I had experienced, sharing those with my loved ones. Those were some of the hardest things I had to do. But here's the thing, for as long as you're afraid of being found out and you're not willing to embrace all the segments of your story, the enemy will continue to have power on you. I say this to my clients often, that when you decide to tell your own story and embrace the good, the bad, and the ugly, you have the power to determine the narrative of your story. But as long as we allow other people to tell our story, they will continue to fabricate whatever they want to fabricate concerning your life. And it will never be the truth. It will never be the full story. But when you decide that you're not going to allow your story, your past, your history to have that much power over you, for the enemy to have that much power over you, and you embrace every aspect of your story. And listen, we can only have imposter syndrome when there's part of our story that is not true, that is a false narrative, when there's a part of our story that we haven't fully embraced. And the enemy loves to put us in that place because he knows when we live in shame and fear and intimidation and guilt, that it causes us to stay in a place of hiding where we don't fully embrace the light that God has created us to be in this world, and we rob the world of the gift that God has placed inside of us. So I want to encourage you in this journey of unveiling as God lifts all the different layers of masks and roles and identities and images and all these things that we have allowed people and ourselves to conceive a false identity, a false narrative of who we are. As we allow God to strip that away, I want to encourage you to press into that, no matter how painful it is, because I promise you, at the end of the story, on the other side of this unveiling, is a free you, is a healed you, is a different version of you that is truly, authentically everything that God created you to be. It is so worth it. It is so worth it. I want to tell you that it wasn't easy for me to do this. It wasn't. I had to write letters. I had to have some hard conversations. I had to really have some deep personal conversations with the Lord where I allowed Him to show me areas of my life that were false. And in this experience, I found a new sense of freedom and peace. I began to see myself more clearly, and that clarity has changed everything for me. I want you guys to know, if you've heard any of my messages, anytime that I speak, I am 100%. I have no problem sharing my weaknesses and my vulnerabilities. I have no problem sharing with you my failures. There's such a freedom that comes from that. And even when I preach, I never preach or share from a place of I've figured it out, I know it, I've got it all figured out, because that is a lie. and um, and I pray that even in me sharing these concepts with you and this truth with you, that God would allow you to find that place of vulnerability and openness where you allow Him into those places of your life that are broken, that you may truly find your healing and your freedom. So I want to leave you with some practical steps that you can take on this unveiling journey. As we continue on this journey together, I want to encourage you to take time to reflect in silence. I know many of us are scared. Number one, silence. We are so scared of being in quiet and silence because we don't want to sit with ourselves. We don't want to sit with God. But if you would make the time, start with 2 seconds. Start with 60 seconds. Start with 2 minutes. Start with 5 minutes. Build it up gradually, but make time to really sit with God in silence and reflect. Sit with your thoughts, but more than anything, sit with God. Ask God to show you the layers that need to be peeled back. Sometimes it's in those quiet moments that we hear God the most clearly. We hear ourselves, we see more clearly when we allow for settling and stillness and silence. Number two, I want to encourage you to journal your thoughts. Write down what comes up during your reflections. I know with many clients, they've said, I don't feel comfortable journaling. I've tried it before and my journal got exposed. For me personally, my journal is a prayer journal. So everything in my journal is a prayer to God. I'm sharing with God what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. And so I've said this to other people. If you stumble upon my journal, that's your business. Maybe God intended for you. But all you will find in there, yes, it's vulnerable. Yes, it's personal, very personal, but it's also prayers to God. And I hope it helps you. But for again, if you are afraid of writing things down in a journal, do an audio journal. You can do a voice note, and you can do it on your phone. It is therapeutic to do it with a pen and paper, but it will also work if you do it on your phone, and you can put a lock on it. You can put a passcode on it, security on it, or you can do an audio note and then lock it up too. Um, as you journal, it helps you reflect, and then you can go back and you can listen to yourself and you can process your thoughts and see the patterns in your life that you may not have noticed before. There is such power in taking thoughts out of your brain and out of your thoughts and putting it down on paper and being able to visually see it. It creates a distance between you and your thoughts and allows you to be able to interrogate those thoughts. Like it says in the Psalm, search me, O God, and know my thoughts. See if there is any anxious way in me, because anxiety, again, is not from the Lord. God does not want us to live in anxiety. That's why it says, do not be anxious about anything, but in everything through prayer and supplication with thanksgiving make your requests known to God, and the peace of God that passes all understanding will rule and guard your hearts. That is God's desire for us. As you sit in silence, as you journal your thoughts, you allow yourself to literally put those thoughts before God and allow God to redirect those thoughts with the truth. That's point number three. Seek God's truth as you sit in silence, as you journal your thoughts. Allow God to reveal His truth to you as you read His word, and let His word speak to you, speak truth to you. The truth will set you free. God, show me the lies that I'm allowing the enemy to infiltrate my mind with. And as you go through this process, allow the Lord to help you replace those lies with the truth of who you are in Christ and what God is saying concerning you and your future. Number four, be patient with yourself in this journey. Remember, it is not a sprint, it is a marathon, it is a journey. Be gentle with yourself as you go through the process. It's okay to take small steps, whatever that might look like for you, however long it might take. Keep moving forward. Think about when you were on your own unveiling journey. What is, as you go on this unveiling journey, what is one layer that you are ready to allow the Lord to peel back? What is one truth from God's word that you need to hold on to as you take that step, and allowing the Lord to unveil the truth of who you are in Him, who He says you are, again, not what life has taught you, who life has taught you you are. As we close out this episode, I want to encourage you by saying, unveiling your true self, the self that is birthed in God, from God's mind, is one of the most powerful things you can do. It's literally saying, God, show me who you had in mind when you created me. Show me what you had in mind when you created me. But to uncover that, remember, trauma and pain over several years of your life causes layers and layers that mask who we truly are. But when we allow the truth of God's word and we allow God's presence to infiltrate our lives, it will help us take off the layers so that we can truly see ourselves for who He originally intended for us to be from the beginning of time. It's about living authentically without the mask, without the fear. It's about stepping into the life that God has designed for you, a life of purpose, power, and peace. This week, I want to challenge you to take one practical step on your unveiling journey. Maybe it's spending extra time in prayer, journaling your thoughts, or simply being honest with yourself about where you are in life right now. Whatever it is, take that step and trust that God is with you every step of the way. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me on this episode of the She is Unleashed podcast. If today's conversation has resonated with you, please subscribe, leave a review, share it with a friend who might need this message. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. We're in this together, and God is guiding us every step of the way. Until next time, stay blessed and stay unleashed.